lever action rifles. Is there anything more American? Cowboys, the Wild West, John Wayne, Clint Eastwood. Which one of those is your favorite? I am a John Wayne guy. He is my favorite. My best friend, on the other hand, is a Clint Eastwood guy. That's his favorite. You can like both. I like both. But if it comes to a favorite, it's an easy pick for me. That's John Wayne. My favorite John Wayne movies would be McClintock and The Quiet Man. But I doubt you tuned in to hear me talk about spaghetti westerns. So saddle up for Gunfighter Life, the podcast where we talk about guns and gunfighting, the right way with God at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. I am your host, Michael Milito, and I am humbled and blessed to be able to talk with you today about lever actions, what I think are some of the best lever actions on the market today. So let's get into it. Before we begin, I'm going to start by saying these are lever actions that I would consider still practical and useful today for hunting, for defense, for an all-around ranch rifle, whatever the case might be. Not so much from a history standpoint. We're not going to talk about which lever action had the biggest, if any, impact in the Civil War. They were used in limited numbers. But that's not really the scope of this podcast generally. Maybe I will do a couple episodes one day on history and guns in history. I'm talking about today. Lever actions you still might want to buy and use for more than just historical value. The best lever actions today. And the two, I think, best of all time. It makes me happy that I think they're still available, still being made today. I know a lot of people say the greatest of all time, but I like boats more than goats. We had goats growing up, poor in the rural South. My father was a commercial fisherman, and his father before him, and I did that some growing up before I joined the Marine Corps. So the best of all time, the boats of the lever action world. I think the two best of all time from a practical standpoint are still with us today. They've come and gone, but as of right now, I believe they're both being manufactured. The Winchester Model 94. What an amazing gun. If you just talk about the epitome of a light, handy, fast-handling woods carbine, few things rival the elegance and the decade after decade effectiveness of the Winchester 94. Sleek, light, handy. And I said few things. There is one that does rival it, and you might be of the opinion that it exceeds it. But it's kind of like the John Wayne versus the Clint Eastwood debate. Actually made that obscure reference in the beginning relevant. How about that? God provides. But which one is better? You could duke that out. That's, a matter of opinion. But its big runner-up, and perhaps surpasses it, depending on your opinion, is the Marlin Model 336. Now, both companies, Winchester and Marlin, at various times, I believe, stopped producing these amazing, iconic American lever-action rifles. But they are still both, at the time of this recording, as I'm aware of it, in the year of our Lord 2023, available from the manufacturer. You can get one new. The Marlin 336 has a few differences that might make you choose it over it. It is a flat top receiver side eject, which means that it has for a long time been much easier to mount optics on. You can mount optics on a Winchester 94, but I think it's much easier to mount optics on a Marlin 336. I do think they're a little bit less elegant, a little bit less fast handling, less sleek, but they are, I think, more robust, easier to mount optics on. So you got some give and take there, and they're both fantastic. The quintessential cartridge for both of these is the Winchester Model 3030. I'm also a big fan of the 35 Remington, which the Marlin was made in for a long time. Maybe they'll bring that back. But There's nothing wrong with the 30-30. The 30-30 has been putting food on the table for decades and decades in America, over 100 years. And both these rifles, the Marlin Model 336 and the Winchester Model 94, as in 1894. Talk about iconic American good lever action. I think these two are probably the best as far as practical lever actions of all time. They're even good if you wanted a kind of do-it-all survival rifle or defensive rifle or just a do-it-all rifle. A good ranch rifle for defending a ranch. A good rifle in states where your Second Amendment may be infringed on carrying a normal modern AR-15, SCAR-17, M1A, whatever the case might be. But you can have one of these. It's a good choice. It's quite a bit of firepower. Inside of 300 yards, a 30-30 is going to be more effective round for round, in my opinion, and I think ballistics and math and physics back that up. Then round for round going to be more effective than a 5.56, and slightly less than the 308 or 7.62 NATO. But it's a good performing cartridge. It's a great hunting cartridge, great for putting meat on the table. It's been doing it, again, for over 100 years. It is a capable defensive carbine, right? Both of these have a reasonable rate of fire. Is it a semi-auto? No. Am I advising you not have an AR-15 and only have one of these? No. But some people may not be allowed to own an AR-15. Or some people mostly just want it for a saddle carbine or a back of the truck carbine. And they're mostly going to hunt deer or have to take care of a coyote or something like that, and not really wanting it for defense, but if they had to press it into that role, it's quite a big step up in firepower than most handguns. It's a decent, both of these are decent, all-around, practical lever-action carbines, and I think they deserve the rightful spots, and they could duke it out, call it a tie between the Winchester Model 94 and the Marlin 336. And it makes me very happy that both manufacturers are doing okay now, it seems. Obviously, I'm not on the insider board. I'm not sitting in on their board meetings. But seemingly both Marlin now, since they've been bought by Ruger and got out of the whole Remington debacle, which Remington doesn't seem to be doing great. But Marlin and Winchester seem to be doing okay, and that makes me so happy. And these two carbines being available is an awesome thing. If you are looking for a good deer rifle, if you're looking to get into deer hunting and you want this kind of light handy woods carbine, good on deer out to 200 yards easy, or you want an heirloom quality piece to get a son or grandson or nephew into hunting, these would make a great heirloom quality thing that even if they decided later they wanted to go into, other types of rifles, I doubt they would ever look down their nose at a Winchester Model 94 or a Marlin 336. They're just great rifles. But they're not the only lever-action rifles. Talking about Marlin, I recently was in a gun store and I got to handle for the second time the Marlin Model 1895. And may I just say, beautiful. Perhaps, and this may anger some people that like the blue steel and walnut, and I like that too. But I think that gray laminate wood and stainless is one of the most appealing aesthetics I have ever seen on firearms, and it looked exquisite on this Model 1895. The Model 1895, the newer ones in stainless steel, in a 4570. As American as lever actions themselves, the 4570, the old warhorse that just does not die. 4570, around since black powder days. And you can still get a brand new Marlin stainless steel 1895. I got to look at both of them. The one that I like a lot is the Trapper. I like the Trapper model mostly because I like light handy carbines. But talk about a really cool, beautiful carbine. The 4570, I don't want to turn this into an episode about that. I've done an entire episode on the 4570. But if you want a kind of freight train of a round, if you're a big, heavy bullet guy, if you think the 30-30 is suitable for jackrabbits, but to hunt, medium to large game, you need a real round. And I'm being sarcastic there, but there's nothing wrong with the 45-70 at close range. You're not going to get the point blank range and trajectory as you are on the 30-30. The 45-70 is going to have a lot more arch to its trajectory. However, it's certainly got killing capability at long range. It's got a reputation for that, and modern metallurgy and propellants and things have only helped that out. You can load, I have a Hornady reloading manual in front of me with different loads for the trapdoor, the original 45-70, and loads for the Marlin specifically, the Marlin 1895. They're quite a bit hotter. So you're taking this cartridge that was good and making it even better in today's metallurgy. And with things like the FTX bullets that can benefit both the 30-30 and the 45-70, allowing you to have more pointed aerodynamic bullets and a tubular fed magazine without the fear of a chain detonation, you really can push this caliber. It's almost a different caliber than it was 100 years ago. Just phenomenal. To give you an idea, and this is from the Hornady Reloading Manual, to give credit where credit is due, the original trapdoor loading 45-70 Government is a 300 grain bullet at 1900 feet a second. And with the 1895 Marlin, those 300 grain bullets at 2100 feet a second. So a pretty legit step up in horsepower, as if the 45-70 needed any more horsepower. But it's just a really cool gun, a really cool combo of that, beautiful lever action rifle. I just think it's an exquisite pairing of that old design, that Marlin model 1895, but in modern metallurgy with, stainless steel and laminate stock. Not just designed to be a safe queen, but to get out and hunt hard and be used in the bush for bear defense and things like that, and paired with a classic but still useful cartridge that benefits from some modern updates, much like the laminate wood and stainless steel. You can get better propellants. You can load it hotter. You can give it those lever evolution bullets, or, soft pointed bullets that give it a better aerodynamics than it had at the time. Just a really cool pairing of the cartridge and the gun in the modern era. That beautiful stainless laminate model 1895 and 45-70. Now, what if 45-70 doesn't quite do it for you? What if you want a real man's caliber? And I say that jokingly, right? But I thought this was really cool in doing some research. The 405 Winchester. It is a beast. Theodore Roosevelt's Lion gun. Not in Marlin's 1895, but in Winchester's 1895. Totally different gun. This is unique in the lever action world for the time. There are other models now, but instead of a classic straight-walled, rimmed, flat nose or round nose bullet, this was designed for, at the time, very modern Spitzer, what we would consider modern type bullets. Now, both of these are really cool, but Winchester still has this listed as being made and offered on their website. The Winchester model 1895 in 30-06. I mean, what a great cartridge that is. And they list the big brother of it in 405 Winchester. That same gun that Theodore Roosevelt hunted lions with, same cartridge. You can still get it and still hunt with it. When we just talked about pushing that 45-70 with modern propellants, we said a 300 grain at 2100. Well, the 405 Winchester is pushing a 300 grainer at 2250. And no special thing required, no special soft tip bullets or anything. You can just go ahead and load pointed bullets for that cartridge. Because unlike most lever actions, the 1895 Winchester is not a tube fed. It is a vertically stacked magazine, which means there's no problem in pointed bullets, Spitzer type bullets in that cartridge. And if you do like the classic blued steel walnut aesthetic, and you just want a powerhouse, or you just like Theodore Roosevelt a lot as a president, you just want something like that. It's really cool that they still offer that gun. What a cool combination. I just figured I'd mention it. Although if you asked me what I wanted for a modern, like the most useful utilitarian lever action of today, it's by a company we haven't talked about yet. Browning. The Browning BLR, the Browning lever action. I mentioned this briefly in the Alaska rifle. It was right up there in the running. I almost picked it as my Alaska rifle. They make the BLR and they've made it over the years in many different configurations. But here's why I think it's probably today's best all-around lever action hunting, and you could obviously push it into a defensive role, lever action rifle. Number one, it also is a vertically stacked magazine, removable box magazine for that matter, which is pretty cool. It's chambered in all kinds of cartridges. The 30-06 is great, but it's also chambered in like the 308, the 243, which are phenomenal cartridges for hunting, obviously. Unlike the 1895, it's pretty readily available to get, good mounts to mount a good scope on it. Also, you can get it in stainless. Again, I'm a big fan of stainless. I actually think I like the aesthetics of stainless better than the old blue steel. But you can get it in stainless. They're very lightweight. Even lighter weight, I think, than the smaller version of the 1895 Trapper. It's close in the long action, but it's quite a bit lighter in the short action cartridges. Speaking of that, you can even get it in a 300 Winchester short mag. Talk about modern, good ballistic cartridge. And if you needed anything else to make it cooler and put it in the top lever actions of today, they make a takedown model. It breaks apart, much like the Ruger 1022 takedown. Different kind of locking mechanism, but you get the idea. That's probably the most common takedown rifle of today. But you can get that in a 300 Winchester short mag or a 308 or a 30-06. Talk about a great backpacking rifle, a great, in the bush, backwoods hunting survival rifle. Going out on like a wilderness canoe trip, you want a good packable gun. You're not planning on making it primarily a hunting trip, but it may turn into one if something bad happens. Just a really cool all-around gun. That Browning BLR. Specifically, I like the stainless steel takedown. Just a really cool gun. Now, not everything's got to be a big bore moose slayer to be, or even a deer slayer to be in the top lever action rifles. What if we go small? The 22 lever action. Talk about a fun little gun. Let's not forget that shooting can be fun. And is it more fun to go out and plink with a Ruger 1022 semi-auto and just shoot a bunch of rounds? Or is it more fun to go out and plink with a lever action 22? Going back to my best friend and I, we grew up poor in the South. I had a Ruger 1022 and he had an old lever action 22. We, spent many hours outside shooting stuff, hunting with those 22 rifles. They're a lot of fun, lever action 22s. Of available good values for today, I'm going to mention a company I don't often mention and not the biggest fan of, to be fair. Talked about that in a Patreon only episode, but Henry. But I do think that Henry makes a good value lever action 22. I'm not aware that they make one in stainless, but that's okay. They still make some really good value 22s. One of the cool things about these lever action 22s, and the Henrys I believe are even stamped for it, is unlike the Ruger 1022 that shoots 22 long rifle, these will shoot 22 shorts, longs, or long rifles. And with repeatable firepower, you can shoot one shot of 22 short with a Ruger 1022. It's just not going to feed and cycle. You can get multiple shots. So if you want that kind of suburban, higher population fun firearm, where it may be totally legal to shoot where you are, but you just want to be quiet and considerate of your neighbors, you can shoot 22 shorts. And 22 shorts are very quiet out of a rifle length. They're still quite loud out of a handgun. But out of a rifle or carbine length barrel, 22 shorts can be quite quiet. And without the need of a suppressor, without the need of paying $200 and going through all the rigmarole of getting that, you can shoot quiet with a lever action 22 with 22 shorts or calibres or CB caps. You can do more than one shot. You can cycle the action. So not only just fun for plinking and things like that, but also maybe very practical for you. Again, where it might be legal and totally fine, but your neighbors aren't going to like it if you go cracking off with a 30-06 in the backyard. But if you need to take out a rabbit that's in your garden, you can easily do it with a lever action 22 loaded with 22 shorts or CB caps. Just a really cool thing, and for a good value, American 22 lever action rifle, the Henrys, and they make a lot of different options. If you want something with a little bit more power, you're mostly, maybe defending the homestead. You live in the Midwest, where the biggest thing you have to worry about is coyotes as far as four-legged pests go. You want something to take care of coyotes and coons and possums, raccoons. So I grew up in the South. I like coon hunting at night with hounds, running through the woods with a light and a rifle. Great time. But, you want perimeter defense, small homestead defense in the Midwest, right? Where you got coyotes, you got coons, you got possums, things like that. Again, the rabbit that's getting in the garden. Maybe you want to step up to the 22 mag. Again, Henry makes these models in a 22 Magnum as well. But if I was going to get a rimfire 22, I'd get it in 22 short, long, and long rifle so I could practice with it, shoot it a bunch, have fun with it, plink with it, and shoot quietly. And also for the versatility of ammo, we've all, if you're listening to this and are of age to own a gun, you've lived through ammo shortages. Sometimes certain calibers dry up. I remember the dry up ammo crisis of 2008ish, and it took years for a 22 long rifle to be normally back on the shelves. Sometimes you could get shorts or longs because a lot of people have those semi-autos and they can't shoot those really reliably, shot after shot. But you could if you owned one of these. So maybe we get into another ammo crunch and you can find 22 longs. Well, no worries, because you got a lever action that can shoot 22 longs repeatably and reliably. If you want something just a little bit classy looking, you just, maybe the first rifle for a kid, grandkid, nephew, or just yourself, right? That you want just something a little bit fancier, something a little bit different. They do make the gold and silver receivers. Just a really cool, super fun, but also a very practical firearm to have. You're only into the, black guns, the AR-15s and the Glock 19s. There's nothing wrong with those guns. But if you're trying to expand that battery, you could do a lot worse for utilitarian purposes and function than a lever action rimfire. The reasons heretofore stated in the podcast. If you were looking to get into the world of hunting, I would not advise you get into deer hunting, which a lot of people do. They're like, I want to hunt and I want to hunt deer. I would advise you get into hunting other things. You're going to learn a lot, and you're going to be far more successful, and you're going to be more encouraged to keep doing it, I think, than deer hunting. So if you wanted to get into hunting squirrels and rabbits and raccoons, possums, where it's legal with a rifle, things like grouse and game birds and things like that, just a lot of fun. And again, just for the fun aspect, you talk about a really fun, cool plinking gun to take other people out and get them introduced into shooting. Just a great gun for all that. And it's a lever action. Really cool. Now, I know there's a lot of lever actions I haven't talked about. This is not the definitive guide to all lever actions on the market today, or even historical lever actions, which would be its own thing. This is just my opinion on some of the best lever action rifles on the market today. I didn't mention the Henry Long Ranger, because if I'm going to get one of those kind of rifles, I'm going to get the Browning BLR. I think it's a better rifle, and I don't apologize for saying that. Not endorsed by Browning. I'm certainly not endorsed by Henry. These are my opinions with training and experience. I think that's a better rifle, so I'm not going to mention the other one. If you were looking for a good budget option, lever action 30-30, I think the Mossberg is a fine rifle. I really do. I don't think it's the best lever action 30-30 on the market. I think either Marlin or the Winchester would take the spot of that. Looking for a good deal, I would look for an older, used one of those two rifles over a new Mossberg probably. If I wanted an all-around good rifle. If I just wanted a beat-it-up utilitarian, buy it off the shelf, good value 30-30, then yeah, the Mossberg would be a good one. But just Those are just a few examples. There are many good lever actions on the market. With that, the tactical tip of the day, I'm going to give you 2 on lever actions. If you own a lever action Winchester Model 94 or similar gun, and you think, hey, I should take this thing all apart and clean it, don't do that. That's my tactical tip for you. Do not do that. As somebody that's worked as a professional gunsmith and had to put those things together again, don't take it apart. Get a good bore snake, clean it from the breech, or get a really good high quality coated cleaning rod and a muzzle guide so you don't touch the rifling at the muzzle of the gun, and clean it that way. But do not take that thing apart and disassemble it. Unless you are a professional gunsmith, you will give yourself an exercise in frustration, possibly losing very small, minute, hard to replace parts. They're not meant like that. They're not, they weren't designed in the modern era where you take everything apart and disassemble it and field strip it. I imagine there's Winchester 94s that have been around since the 1800s that have never been disassembled and still work just fine. They're more likely to stay that way if you don't disassemble them. There may be a time when you have to. You want to replace a lever or do a trigger job, but if you're just thinking about cleaning it and disassembling it, don't do it. Just clean it how it is. Some good, safe gun cleaner, and clean it without disassembling it. That's my tactical tip for you there, and you might thank me or be nodding your head if you've ever done that. The next one is on shooting a lever action quickly. I've done a ton of competition shooting in my day. I've even done the old school mountain man rendezvous. I did those mostly for the shooting part of it, the shooting competition of it, and the hatchet throwing and things like that. But one thing I've never really dabbled in, I'm not a cowboy action shooter. But one technique I think you can try, especially with a not cowboy action tricked out short throw lever and things like that. Traditional like Marlin 336 or Winchester 94, instead of putting your hand through the lever, trying to do it functionally and fast, grab the front of the lever with your 4 fingers while keeping your trigger finger ready to manipulate the trigger, and instead of trying to shove it forward with the front of your hands, which if you're trying to do it a lot and fast can really beat up your hands, always make like a loop out of leather or 550 cord, but grab the front of that lever with your 4 fingers and grab it and throw it open hard and shut it hard. You're not going to break it, but run it like you're trying to, grabbing it with the hand instead of putting your hand inside of the lever. Maybe different than what you normally see, but try it and see if you don't like it better. Those are your tactical tips of the day for running a lever action, maintaining a lever action. Your tactical verse of the day. Since at the time of this recording it is the 14th of June in the year of our Lord 2023, I thought some small key verses from the 14th proverb that you might glean from. There is a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. The backslider in heart will be filled with his own ways, but a good man will be satisfied from above. The simple believes every word, but the prudent considers well his steps. A wise man fears and departs from evil. In the fear of the Lord there is strong confidence, and his children will have a place of refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life. I normally give commentary, but those are powerful, concise verses. Just meditate on them for yourself. Hopefully you'll hit the rewind button and listen to some of those key verses again. Beautiful wisdom and power of God. With that, thanks for listening, men, and have a blessed day.